Something major just happened, and most Americans are still asleep to it. At nearly 2 in the morning, the White House quietly confirmed a financial update that could directly impact millions of seniors living on a fixed income. This was not announced on primetime television. There was no press conference, no headlines scrolling across your screen, but buried inside a Treasury update is a decision that changes who gets help first and who gets pushed to the back of the line. For the first time, low-income seniors relying on Social Security, supplemental security income, or Social Security disability insurance have been moved into priority status for the new $2,000 tariff rebate checks. If you are living on a fixed monthly benefit, if rising prices have been squeezing your grocery bill, your rent, and your utilities, this update may have just changed your financial timeline overnight. Breaking down exactly what happened, why it happened so suddenly, and what it means for seniors across America starts right now with a confirmation that changed everything. Late last night, the White House confirmed what many believed was only a rumor. The $2,000 tariff rebate checks are officially approved. But that was not the real shock. The real surprise came from what happened behind the scenes. For days, speculation spread across social media, finance channels, and community groups. Some said seniors might qualify, others said nothing had changed. But just hours ago, confirmation quietly arrived. The Treasury revised its eligibility structure, and low-income seniors were added to a brand new priority list. This list did not exist earlier this week. Until now, the rebate program focused mainly on middle-income workers and households affected by higher prices on imported goods. Seniors were mentioned in passing, but never placed at the front of the line. That changed overnight. According to internal updates, seniors living on a fixed income, especially those receiving Social Security, supplemental security income, or Social Security disability insurance, have now been moved into a higher review category. That means earlier processing, faster verification, and a real chance at receiving funds sooner than millions of working households. The timing is what caught everyone off guard. This update went live without public warning, suggesting a fast-track decision after an internal review of low-income households. Treasury language specifically states that Americans with limited or fixed income should not be left behind. That single sentence triggered a chain reaction. For seniors struggling with rising rent, food, gas, and medical costs, this confirmation is not just financial news. It is a shift in priority and potentially a lifeline. The biggest question right now is simple. Why did this happen so fast, and why so quietly? This shift did not come from public pressure or political theater. It came from data. Over the past 2 weeks, multiple internal economic reports landed on the president's desk, and the numbers were hard to ignore. Inflation was not just rising, it was hitting seniors harder than any other group. One analysis showed a sharp increase in senior poverty, especially among Americans receiving less than $2,300 a month from Social Security. These are individuals with no room to adjust, no overtime, no side income, no flexibility. When prices go up, their buying power goes down immediately. That data triggered an internal review of the tariff rebate program. Originally, the plan was never designed to prioritize seniors. It focused on workers and middle-income households impacted by rising import costs, but the numbers forced a rethink. According to advisors familiar with the review, the concern was straightforward. If the government is returning tariff revenue to Americans, those with the least financial cushion should not be last in line. That single principle changed everything. Instead of slow revisions and public debate, the decision was fast-tracked. Treasury officials were instructed to reevaluate who was most financially vulnerable, not who earned the most, but who could absorb the least. That is why this update feels sudden. It was not rushed. It was accelerated by urgency. Seniors on a fixed income became impossible to ignore, and once the data made that clear, the system moved quickly and quietly to correct course. To fully understand why seniors were suddenly moved forward, you have to understand how this program is funded, because this is not a traditional stimulus check. Unlike past relief payments that required congressional approval and new spending bills, the tariff rebate program pulls from an existing revenue source, tariff collections on imported goods. Every time a tariff is applied, that money does not disappear. It flows into federal accounts. And for years, one argument has remained consistent. If tariffs are generating billions, that money should not sit idle while Americans struggle with rising prices. That principle is what makes this program different. Because the funds already exist, Treasury has more flexibility in how payments are structured and distributed. There is no need to wait for Congress to pass new legislation. There is no political bottleneck slowing the process down. Once eligibility rules are finalized, Treasury can move forward. That is why the internal update for seniors matters so much. It was not about creating new money. It was about deciding who should receive existing funds first. During the review, officials were instructed to identify groups with limited income, low financial mobility, and fixed benefits. Seniors immediately stood out. Their income does not rise with inflation. Their expenses do. From a data standpoint, they became the clearest example of households most impacted by rising costs with the least ability to absorb them. This funding structure explains why the shift happened quickly. Treasury did not need approval to act, it only needed evidence. And once that evidence was clear, the priority list changed. What most people do not realize is this: seniors were not added to the program by name. They were moved up because of a scoring system. During the internal review, Treasury did not simply decide who deserved help. Instead, officials rebuilt the eligibility model from the ground up. Every household was evaluated using a new set of financial risk indicators. The system looks at income level, dependence on government benefits, purchasing power, and most importantly, income stability. This is where seniors stood out immediately. Households relying heavily on Social Security, supplemental security income, or Social Security disability insurance scored extremely high under the new model, not because they earn the least, but because their income is fixed. It does not grow when inflation rises. It does not adjust when rent, food, gas, or utilities increase. That makes them uniquely vulnerable. Treasury analysts added what they call a benefit stability factor. This measures how predictable income is and how exposed a household is to rising costs. Seniors on fixed benefits ranked at the very top. By comparison, many working households, even with higher annual income, scored lower because their earnings fluctuate. They may have overtime, bonuses, or the ability to change jobs. Seniors do not. Once the scoring system was applied, the results were unavoidable. Seniors were not just eligible. They ranked among the highest priority groups. This was not a political decision. It was not generosity. It was math. And once the numbers were finalized, the priority list reorganized itself quietly, efficiently, and permanently. One detail continues to stand out. This update was not announced loudly. There was no press conference, no early warning, and that was intentional. According to internal sources, the White House wanted absolute control over the timing. Officials were concerned that if the change leaked too early, confusion would spread before the eligibility structure was fully locked in. In past programs, premature announcements created misinformation, false expectations, and overwhelming inquiry traffic. This time, they wanted the paperwork finished first. The priority categories needed final approval. Treasury alignment had to be confirmed. Verification systems had to be prepared. Only after those pieces were in place did the update go live quietly. That is why many Americans woke up to a completely different eligibility landscape than the one they saw the day before. Another reason for the silence was speed. Once the scoring overhaul was complete, there was no need for extended debate. The data was clear. Seniors on a fixed income ranked among the most financially exposed households in the country. Officials moved quickly to avoid delays that could slow down early approvals. There was also concern about political noise. By finalizing the structure internally first, Treasury reduced the risk of public pressure reshaping the program before implementation. The goal was execution, not headlines. So, while it feels sudden to the public, this update had been moving quietly for days. The final approval simply landed all at once. And when it did, it reshaped the entire payment order without warning, but with precision. Most people missed when the $2,000 rebate was publicly confirmed. Most people assumed there was only one payment line, one queue, one timeline, one process. That assumption turned out to be wrong. Behind the scenes, Treasury was preparing a split-track payment system. One track is designed for middle-income workers and families. This group requires more verification, income history, tax filings, and employment records. That process takes time, and it was always expected to move in stages. The second track is very different. This track was built specifically for low-income individuals whose financial data already exists inside federal systems. That includes seniors receiving Social Security, supplemental security income, or Social Security disability insurance. For these households, income history is already documented. Benefit records are stable. Identity verification is simpler. That means eligibility can be confirmed automatically without new forms, applications, or delays. That is where the senior priority list connects. By placing low-income seniors into the second track, Treasury did not just move them up the list, it moved them into a faster lane altogether. Most seniors do not realize this yet. They hear priority and think it means preference. In reality, it means fewer steps, less paperwork, less review, less waiting. This is why some seniors may see status updates before millions of working households even enter the verification phase. It is not favoritism, it is efficiency. The system was built to move the fastest where the data is already clean. Seniors fit that profile almost perfectly, and once the split track system went live, the order of payments began to change quietly but decisively. When Treasury finalized the new structure, seniors did not just join the program, they were elevated. The payment system was reorganized into 3 distinct tiers, and this is where the shift became undeniable. Low-income seniors were placed into one of the highest priority categories ahead of many working households that were originally expected to receive payments first. This decision was driven by 2 key factors: income vulnerability and benefit stability. Under the updated model, households earning under roughly $30,000 a year received a significant priority boost. Seniors living on Social Security, supplemental security income, or Social Security disability insurance often fall well below that threshold. When those income figures were paired with fixed monthly benefits, their priority score surged. Tier 1 was originally designed for middle-income workers earning between $30,000 and $75,000 annually, but after the scoring adjustment, seniors receiving below-average Social Security payments were added directly into that top tier. This changed the entire payment order. Unlike working households, seniors cannot offset rising prices with higher wages or extra hours. Their income remains the same whether inflation rises or falls. Treasury recognized that this makes them disproportionately exposed to economic pressure. As a result, seniors move from the back of the line to the front, not symbolically, but structurally. This is why some seniors may receive confirmation before millions of working Americans even enter review. The tier placement gives them earlier access to verification, approval, and payment processing. For the first time since the program was announced, seniors are not an afterthought. They are a priority by design. As low-income seniors moved into the highest priority tier, the rest of the system had to rebalance, and that is where confusion began. Tier 2 includes a large portion of working Americans. These are individuals and households earning roughly between $40,000 and $90,000 per year. Originally, many in this group expected to receive payments early in the process. Under the previous structure, Tier 2 was positioned close to the front. That timeline has now shifted. With seniors moving upward, portions of Tier 2 are being pushed into later distribution rounds. This does not mean disqualification. It means waiting longer while the system prioritizes households with the least financial flexibility. Tier 3 sits even further back. This tier includes higher income households and individuals whose records require additional verification. These cases often involve complex tax filings, multiple income sources, or incomplete IRS data. What is important to understand is this: seniors are not placed in Tier 3. Under the revised structure, they fall into Tier 1 or Tier 2 depending on income, but never the lowest priority category. That distinction matters. It shows the program was not just expanded to include seniors, it was redesigned around them. The system is now weighted toward financial vulnerability rather than income alone. That is why many working households are seeing their timelines shift, while seniors are seeing theirs accelerate. This is not a pause, it is a reordering driven driven by data, not politics. Now let us talk numbers because this is where eligibility becomes very real. Under the updated Treasury scoring model, income thresholds play a decisive role in how fast approvals move. The strongest priority signal appears at an annual income below roughly $30,000. For many seniors, that threshold is not an exception, it is the norm. Seniors receiving Social Security, supplemental security income, or Social Security disability insurance often fall well under that level, especially those living on a single benefit check each month. When the system identifies income below that mark, the eligibility score rises sharply. There is also a monthly benchmark that matters. Seniors receiving less than approximately $1,300 per month from Social Security are now considered financially high risk under the revised model. That designation pushes them into expedited review, but income alone is not the only trigger. The system also flags individuals who rely almost entirely on federal benefits. If your primary or only income source is Social Security, supplemental security income, Social Security disability insurance, or survivor benefits, your case is automatically routed through the faster verification lane. Another major change affects seniors who filed zero income tax returns over the past 2 years. Previously, those filings caused delays. Now, Treasury is using Social Security Administration data to bypass that bottleneck entirely. This means many seniors will not need to submit anything new. Their income is already verified. Their benefit history is already on file. In simple terms, the lower and more stable your income is, the faster the system moves. For seniors living on fixed benefits, that reality has finally been built into the process. One of the most important details in this entire update is also the one most people are missing. For many seniors, there is no application. Under the revised Treasury framework, eligibility reviews for low-income seniors are designed to happen automatically. This is possible because most seniors already have complete income and identity records inside federal systems. If your primary income comes from Social Security, supplemental security income, or Social Security disability insurance, your payment history is already documented through the Social Security Administration. Your identity information and tax records are already stored with the IRS. Treasury is simply connecting those systems. That is why the updated memo repeatedly uses the phrase hands-off processing. In plain terms, if your information is current, you will not need to file new paperwork, submit an online form, or contact an agency. The system will review your eligibility in the background. Only a small group of seniors may be contacted for verification. This usually happens when records are outdated, addresses do not match, or direct deposit information is missing. These requests are not denials, they are safeguards. Another key change affects seniors who filed zero income tax returns. In the past, these cases slowed everything down. Now, Treasury is bypassing that step by using Social Security Administration benefit data instead. The result is speed. For millions of seniors, eligibility will be confirmed using data that already exists. No lines, no portals, no complicated applications. This is not an opt-in program for most seniors. It is an automatic review, and for many, automatic approval. Just when most people thought they understood the new priority system, a final change was added quietly and at the very last moment. Inside the updated Treasury memo, a new category appeared just hours before the announcement. This group was not mentioned in public statements. It was not part of early drafts, and yet it may receive the fastest approvals of all. This group includes fixed income seniors receiving less than $1,100 per month. Treasury officials classified these households as high-impact beneficiaries. That term has a specific meaning. It refers to individuals whose income is so limited that even minor price increases for groceries, utilities, or medication can create immediate financial stress. New inflation data flagged this group as the most vulnerable segment of the senior population. When that information reached decision makers, the response was direct. These seniors were moved into the same fast-track priority lane as other low-income seniors without delay. What makes this significant is speed. Because their income sources are simple and fully documented through federal benefit systems, verification is nearly instant. No employment records, no secondary income checks, no complicated filings. For seniors living on less than $1,100 a month, this adjustment could mean approvals arriving earlier than anyone expected, even earlier than other seniors. This was not symbolic, it was structural. The system now recognizes that those with the least financial margin cannot afford to wait, and for the first time, that reality is reflected in how payments are prioritized. Now let us talk about what happens next, because this is where timing matters. With the eligibility structure finalized, Treasury moves into the execution phase. That means verification, routing, and scheduling payments. For seniors placed in the highest priority tiers, this process starts earlier than it does for most other groups. The first step is internal confirmation. Treasury coordinates with the IRS to verify identity records and with the Social Security Administration to confirm benefit accounts. None of this changes eligibility, but it does affect how quickly payments are released. Over the coming days and weeks, some seniors may see alerts appear in their IRS or Social Security Administration portals. These messages may ask you to confirm your address, review direct deposit information, or complete a simple identity check. These alerts are not a problem. They are part of the fast-track system. What matters is this. Do not ignore them. A missed confirmation can slow processing even for high-priority cases. Seniors whose information is already current may see no alerts at all. Their verification happens automatically in the background. Early projections suggest that seniors in Tier 1 could see status updates before many working households even enter review. Approval notices are expected to roll out in stages, starting with the most financially vulnerable groups. There are still administrative steps ahead, but the order is clear. Seniors are no longer waiting behind everyone else. The system is moving, and for once, it is moving toward those who need it most. This moment represents more than a payment. It represents recognition. Over the past few years, prices rose faster than benefits. Rent climbed, groceries became more expensive, utility bills stretched fixed incomes thinner and thinner, and for many seniors, there was no adjustment, just endurance. This update does not solve every problem, but it changes something important. Position. For the first time in this program, seniors are not waiting quietly at the back of the line. They are built into the structure. Their financial reality is reflected in how the system works, not just in words, but in priority. The Tariff rebate program was never about charity. It was about redistribution of existing revenue. And now that redistribution acknowledges who feels inflation first and hardest. If you are a senior living on Social Security, supplemental security income, Social Security disability insurance, or a fixed monthly benefit, this update signals a shift in how financial relief is targeted. It recognizes that stability does not mean security, and that fixed income can be fragile in an unstable economy. What happens next will unfold over weeks, not months. Payments will roll out in stages. Status updates will appear quietly, and many seniors may receive confirmation before they expected simply because the system finally sees them clearly. This is not the end of the story, but it is an important chapter. Stay informed, stay prepared, and remember this time you were not forgotten.